Assalamualaikum and greetings, respected organizer, fellow presenters, and distinguished guests. My name is Niza Mohd Aminuddin from UCYP University, Malaysia. The title of my presentation is Too Emotional to Lead, Gender-Based Leadership Stereotype and the Road to SDG 5 in Malaysia. This study was inspired by a common but damaging stereotype that women are too emotional to lead. I believe that emotionally should be reframed not as a weakness but as a leadership intelligence that contribute to effective inclusive governance. This slide explains the background and problem of my study, focusing on gender representation and leadership among women in Malaysia's workforce. It also highlights the research gap that motivates this study. As shown on the left, although women make up 38.2% of the Malaysian workforce, their presence significantly declines at higher levels of leadership. Only 24.7% hold senior management positions, and an even smaller 17.9% occupy board seats. This pattern shows a vertical gap where women's participation decreased as leadership level increased. It reflects a glass ceiling effect that continues to limit women's advancement, especially in the public sector. On the right, I summarized the key milestone relevant to this issue. By 2030, under SDG 5, the global target is to achieve gender equality and empower all women and girls. However, even with ongoing effort, stereotypes persist, such as the belief that women are too emotional or less capable to lead. At present, there is a clear research gap, especially in Malaysia, where few studies explore how emotionality and gender stereotypes influence women's leadership development and how this relate to SDG 5 goals. Therefore, my study aims to fill this gap by examining how young women leaders in Malaysia's public sector navigate these barriers and develop leadership strategies that contribute to both institutional representation and gender equality. Okay, this research therefore aims to examine how gender-based emotionality stereotypes affect women's leadership advancement and Malaysia's alignment with SDG 5. The key questions guiding this study was: how do perceptions that women are too emotional to lead influence their leadership opportunities in Malaysia? This study also explores what cultural and organization mechanism reinforce this stereotype and what interventions can reduce its negative impact. This study draws on two main theoretical frameworks. First, the role congruity theory, which argues that women face prejudice when their gender roles, seen as nurturing and communal, conflict with leadership expectation that emphasize assertiveness and authority. Second, the lack of fit model, which explains how women are often perceived as not fitting the leader prototype, leading to biased evaluations. In Malaysia's multicultural and patriarchal setting, shaped by Islamic Confucian and collective norms, these biases are even more pronounced, reinforcing traditional gender hierarchies. To address this issue, I conducted a mixed methods empirical study. The quantitative phase involved 300 professionals, 150 men and 150 women from Kuala Lumpur, Penang and Johor Bahru. Participants completed a survey of 30 Likert scale items measuring perceptions of emotionality and leadership suitability. The qualitative phase included 20 semi-structured interviews, 10 men and 10 women managers, to explore their life experiences. Quantitative data were analyzed using SPSS regression, while interview data were analyzed using thematic analysis following Brown and Clark's 2006 approach. The quantitative findings reveal several important patterns. First, 71% of respondents view women as more emotional than men. Second, 57% believe that women's emotionality reduce their leadership credibility. The regression results confirm this. The beta value equals -0.39 with a p-value less than 0.01, showing a significant negative relationships. This means that when women are perceived as more emotional, they are seen as less suitable for leadership, and this result is statistically significant. Interestingly, 74% of respondents said emotional intelligence is important for leadership, showing a clear paradox. In short, Malaysians value emotional intelligence yet penalize women for expressing emotion. The qualitative findings provided deeper insight into this contradiction. Three major themes emerge. First, cultural reinforcement. Traditional and religious values frame women as caregiver, not decision makers. Second, organizational bias. Women face unequal promotion criteria and limited access to leadership network. Third, internalized self-censorship. Many women concisely suppress emotions to avoid being judged as unprofessional. This creates a double bind. If women express emotion, they are seen as weak. If they suppress it, they are seen as cold or unfeminine. These results have direct implication for SDG 5, particularly Target 5.1, ending discrimination, and Target 5.5, ensuring women's participation in leadership. The emotionality stereotype limits women's representation in decision making, undermining Malaysia's SDG commitments. Yet, if emotionality is reframed as emotional intelligence, it aligns with transformational leadership, which emphasize empathy, vision, and collaboration. Therefore, challenging these stereotypes is not only a gender issue, it's a developmental imperative for inclusive and sustainable leadership. To address these challenges, several strategies are recommended. First, implement diversity, equity, and inclusion training to help organizations recognize unconscious bias and reframe emotionality as a leadership asset. Second, promote mentorship and sponsorship programs, including Male Ally, to help women build networks and visibility. Third, strengthen policy enforcement. Malaysia's 30% board quota should move from voluntary to mandatory compliance with penalties for non-adherence. Fourth, launch public awareness campaigns that showcase emotionality intelligent female leaders to shift public perceptions. Lastly, adopt an androgynous leadership model combining assertiveness and empathy, which fits Malaysia's multicultural context and global SDG visions. In conclusion, this study demonstrates that the stereotype of women being too emotional to lead continues to hinder leadership advancement and Malaysia's SDG 5 progress. Quantitative evidence confirms its negative effect on women's credibility, while qualitative insights show how culture, organization, and self-perception reinforce the problem. However, emotionality is not a weakness. It is the foundation of emotional intelligence and transformational leadership. To move forward, Malaysia must value emotional competence as leadership strength, implement equitable policies, and build inclusive institutions that truly reflect the goals of gender equality and sustainable development. Before I end my presentation, just remember that empathy is not a sign of weakness. It is the core of transformational leadership. Thank you very much for your attention. I welcome your questions and discussion.